Pastor, I have a question. Why did God allow Satan to hang out in heaven knowing that he was evil and without remorse? Now, this is one question that was submitted to me in the box here in the narthex at Shepherd of Peace quite some time ago. And I'm sorry to say that it's taken me quite a while to get to answering this one. And there's several questions actually that I need to start answering, and I hope to get in a better habit of doing that. But let's try and tackle this one a little bit. This question really refers to two events that we can read about in the scriptures. One is Satan being cast out of heaven along with all of his angels, those that rebelled with him against God and the good angels. And then the other event is what we see happening in Job chapters 1 and 2. So let's talk about that first event, first of all. First, we have God casting Satan out of heaven. We read about this in Revelation 12:9 and Isaiah 14, Isaiah 14:12 through 15. And there it is described to us that exactly that happened. Satan was cast out of heaven along with all of the demons. Now, the timing of that event, we don't know precisely when that happened, but we know it happened between two other events. That is the completion of creation on day 6, because angels were part of that creation of God sometime in the 6 days of creation. Don't know exactly which day. And then the fall of man into sin. We know it had to happen somewhere in between those two events, because by the time we get to the fall of man, we know that Adam and Eve are tempted by the serpent, who is Satan. And we know that at the end of day 6 of creation, God says that his creation is very good. And that certainly would not have included an evil angel who was bent on destroying that which God had just created. So that's the first event. The second event that's being asked about here is really the key one. And that's what we see happening in the first chapters of Job, first 2 chapters of Job. In Job chapter 1, we see this sort of heavenly council that God has called. It's almost sort of like a meeting with his angels that he has called to happen. And then again in Job 2, God does the same thing. But the surprise attendee at both of these meetings is Satan. Why is he there? Didn't God cast him out? Why would he allow Satan to be here in his presence once again? Now, the first thing that I want you to note is that the Bible doesn't really tell us exactly where this meeting with God happens. It just says that the angels and Satan also came before God. They were in his presence. Now, the most obvious answer to the question of where this happened would be heaven, the place where God dwells with his angels. But again, God and his angels can be anywhere and everywhere all at one time. It's possible the meeting didn't take place in heaven at all, but it's some other location in the spiritual realm. The Bible simply doesn't tell us, doesn't give us those details. What the Bible does tell us, though, is that Satan is there, and he presents himself. But when you read this in Job 1 in particular, it really does seem like Job's presence is not normal. God actually singles him out. He asks, "Where did you come from?" Almost as if he's saying, "Why are you here?" And Satan's answer actually makes sense when we consider his character. Satan says he's been wandering to and fro, and that, of course, also adds to the fact that it seems like Satan's presence with God and his angels is not normal at this point in time. But Satan says he's been wandering to and fro. 1 Peter 5:8 tells us that the devil wanders around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. And that certainly fits with what we see in Job chapter 1 with Satan, and Job chapter 2 for that matter. In both cases, it seems that his attendance is abnormal. In other words, he doesn't live there with God and his angels. He spends most of his time, in fact, wandering around, looking for a place to dwell. God does allow him, at least these 2 times, though, to be before his presence. Why? That really is the question, I guess. Why? Why does God allow that? Well, the Bible doesn't really give us a description of why, but the Bible tells us that it did happen. And we can only go as far as what the Bible actually tells us. And what the Bible actually tells us is exactly what we need to know. We know that Satan and his angels were defeated, they were cast out of heaven. We know that Satan's ultimate defeat, though, came at the cross, that defeat that was prophesied in Genesis chapter 3, where God told Satan that the offspring of the woman would crush his head. And that's what Jesus did at the cross. He crushed the head of the serpent, of Satan. And we know that now Satan is sort of like a dying cockroach. He knows he's been defeated, but he's going to thrash around and cause as much damage as he possibly can before he's finally cast into the lake of fire that God has prepared for him. We can take comfort, though, that while Satan does still have power in this world, his power is not unlimited. He is still bound. I mean, you can see that in Job 1 and 2. God doesn't allow him to do whatever he wants. God, in fact, tells him, first of all, that he can't hurt Job's body at all, can't cause him any type of physical pain. He can only take away his goods. But God does allow him to step it up, but he still gives him limitation, even when he allows Satan to step it up. He says, you can afflict Job's body, but you just can't take his life away from him. And God limits Satan this whole time, knowing that Job will not lose his faith. Satan is powerful, but God is more powerful. Satan is strong, but Jesus, the stronger man, has defeated him and has plundered him of all of his goods, and that includes each and every one of us. So yeah, this interaction between God and Satan that we read about in Job, it's strange. But take comfort in the fact that Satan, as I said, is defeated, has been defeated by Christ. And while he does have power in this world, he is limited. And the last day will come when he finally will experience ultimate defeat, when Christ returns and casts him, like I said, into that lake of fire that's been prepared for him and for his demons. Hope that helps get at that question a little bit. Again, do keep them coming. I plan to put out some more videos again soon.